Okay, up next, our third speaker for today, Miss Emily Anna Bechan. Ms. Emily Anna Bechan is a final year psychology student of the University of the West Indies. She's the founder of the Psychological Support and Guidance Enterprise. She represents numerous of associations and organizations, including one, Student Psychology Association, President and Acting Public Relations Officer, and also Public Communications Marketing Officer for that organization. Additionally, for the PsycG International Honor Society in Psychology, she is the Public Relations Officer. Also, for the Peer Counseling Association, she's a marketing director and acting vice president and also acting public relations officer. Lastly, for the Youth Visionaries of Trinidad and Tobago, she is the social media coordinator. I give the floor to Ms. Emily Anna Bechan. You can come.
Hi, everyone. Are you hearing me? Okay. So today I want to speak about the root causes of crime and violence, right? Now, I mean, this can be something harsh that I would put forward at first, but you know, some people in Trinidad, especially, we have this mentality and this mindset that, you know, we want life easy, right? But we don't want to work hard, right, to achieve. So some of the root causes that contribute to crime and violence is like the family factors and the educational factors. I'm going to break it down a little bit for you. So we have numerous factors ranging from the lack of parental supervision, guidance among our young ones, right? And there's like a lack of respect among our youth. Now, you know, that happens because if, you know, we don't have the right role models around, you tend to see, you know, the young ones not showing the respect that they should have for the authorities or anyone in particular, right? And there's like a loss of moral values and spiritual values and all of that. All right. And then there's the lack of education with regards to sex, right? Now, as you know, teenagers and stuff, they tend to get curious, right, about these activities. And this sometimes can lead to unplanned pregnancies, and that also is a factor of poverty, right? And then poverty would lead to the crime and violence, right? And then there's after that keeps occurring, you know, it is not anyone's fault, right? But we have to understand that if we don't implement things like my colleague said before and Ms. Mohez, then we will always have this cycle that is never ending, and we will always be, you know, fighting about this crime and violence and how do we put an end to it, right? So that's just to name a few with respect to the family and educational factors. There is the environmental factors. Now sometimes, you know, persons might grow up in a particular area, right, that is not really suitable, and you know, like there's like gang formations, which can tend to lead certain individuals into peer pressure, like Ms. Charles was saying, right? And that can cause individuals to just, you know, well, if my partner doing that, well, you know how we Trinidad this behave, right? It's a mentality, right? And they tend to just get coerced into doing the wrong activities and think that's the way of life. You know, there's an easy way to get what you want, but in, you know, in reality that is wrong, and we have to curb that. And the ways to do that, it starts at home. It starts at an educational level, right? So parents and teachers have to set these examples, right, as well as the government. So, well, I'll get to that shortly. And then, you know, some of the areas, like for instance, there's illegal settlements like squatting and all of these things. All that leads to well, it comes from poverty, right? And it is like a never ending cycle where, you know, individuals, they either did not have the right support at the beginning, right? The parental supervision and the role models, like I was saying before, that would, you know, this would be the result. You know, we tend to have that cycle of where there's unplanned pregnancies, and then, you know, poverty stems out of that. And then, we have these illegal settlements, and then the gang formations happen. And, and some of these persons, they tend to, when they form their areas, right, in specific areas, they are discriminated, and they are, there's prejudice to them, right, because of the activities that they involve in. But at the same time, you have to realize too, why is that happening, right? So these are the causes. I'm not saying that, it's their fault that that has happened, right? But again, you have to look at the root problem, right, where it comes from, and how we could move forward from that, right, to help these individuals, right? And then, last but not least, the government and the authorities, right? I mean, I don't want to be calling out on anybody, but politicians, I believe they need to lead by example, right? We need to end the corruption. We need to, stop this blame game thing, and really sit down and plan amongst our, we have all the resources, and we need to use it, right? And some of the causes that continue to occur as we see these heinous acts constantly happening over and over is when the laws are not strongly enforced, right? Simple thing as little laws, you know, persons with possession of illegal ammunition and firearms, people who are in, domestic violent relationships. And, when you're going to report it to the police, you expect something out of that, right? You shouldn't have to be afraid, especially for women. You shouldn't have to be feeling like, what are they going to think about me? Or, and we have to have this level of understanding amongst everyone, that you come and you make a report that XYZ happened to me. Take it seriously, right? There's no laughing matter. This is not a joke, right? It's people, daughter, people, niece, nephew, whatever, right? And these things are very, very serious. So I just wanted to call out on that, that is a cause that we need to enforce our laws. And some of our laws are a bit outdated, right? I think they need to go through it and actually see what are the main problems that we are facing in Trinidad and Tobago, and actually, update the laws and whatnot, so that we can move forward and give justice to the persons that are being inflicted, and for the victims to feel safe, right? Who are survivors, right? So that's just a touch of few on the causes, some of the root causes. There's much more that will be a result of what crime and violence is today. And now I want to talk a little bit about the psychological effects of crime and violence. I believe Ms. Moore has touched on a good bit, so I'll just reiterate some points. As you know, it will affect most persons' mental health, psychologically, and also their psychosocial well-being, right? Now, victims that would have suffered from, let's say, any abusive relationships like domestic violence, gender-based violence, emotional abuse, the list goes on. They can sometimes develop mental illnesses, right? And these illnesses can turn into long-term psychological disorders, right? Like depression, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, social anxiety disorder, and so much more that can affect a person's mind, right? And that's just the victims, right, that are suffering from any such crime done to them, or violence in that form. And there are persons that feel uncomfortable, like if you're a survivor, they just feel uncomfortable and unsafe in public spaces, just to go down the road, or, to make markets or whatever your daily activities are. It disrupts their daily lifestyle, because you have this fear when you go out into the open that, wait, I had to protect myself. Next time somebody, do me something, or, or just a car passing by shooting me, like that is sexual street harassment, right? And that is not okay. That is wrong. right? And we have to address these things. So that is some of the effects there, right? And I want to reiterate this point that survivors of domestic violence, they tend to be susceptible to having a lot of trust issues, right? When they get into new relationships because of their prior, trauma from the relationship, if they were in a gender-based violence relationship or domestic violence, any sort of abuse, whether it be mentally or physically, that is abuse and it is wrong, and that has an effect on your mental health, right? And it could change a person's entire life from then on, right? And I want to touch on children. Now, children who witness domestic violence in the home, like a mommy and a daddy fighting, um, they are traumatized too psychologically. So that affects how they grow up, right? How they feel, right? How they think about things mentally. That can affect their whole outlook and how when they reach adulthood, right? So it could have on a spectrum where the child feels very alienated, like one of my colleagues said, and meaning that they feel fearful because they witness this in their own home, and they not getting that love and that support, and for them to feel safe, right? And then there's some of the children that would actually become more passive aggressive, like Miss Mohes was saying, and that can actually cause them to, it's like learned behaviors. There's a theory, I believe it's Bandura's theory. Don't want to get all into psychology here, but that actually is where a child is imitating what is being observed, right? And when a child witness, hitting mommy getting beat by daddy, if it's let's say it's a male, a young like a son or something, and he's seeing that, he's gonna grow up thinking that that's okay. Well, daddy does hit mommy and things, so I'm gonna start doing that if I not getting my way, if I want chocolate or whatever. It starts with those little red flags, and it's up to the adults, in schools to recognize it before it gets too late, you know and because if there's a problem at home, it's going to manifest itself in the schools, and that's where the education system, we have to have the right persons to be able to help these individuals, and don't label them and say you only making trouble and whatever. Yes, okay, we know that's happening, but what can you do to help them? We need special training to help them understand, like, listen, that is wrong. You cannot hit somebody, you know, to get what you want. You have to ask nicely and have manners. And, we need to instill these things in our young children and youths and teenagers, young and old, right? So that's just to name a few of that. Now, in the general public, I'm sure right now, as this whole incident that occurred recently, it must make people feel like, there's a loss of freedom. Like you can't do as you want without watching behind your back. That something is going to happen bad to you. Right now, I mean, you have women and men, all genders, it don't matter your age, your race, your gender. We must always be vigilant, right? But it should never reach to the extent where you have to always be like, you're scared, like you feel like you're getting a heart attack every time you reach out the door because you don't know if somebody's gonna snatch you, you know? So these are some of the things that can psychologically impact, an individual, and can take a toll on a lot of us, right? And it affects how we carry about ourselves from our day-to-day, things that we have to do, right? Because you can't stop your life, right? Else you're going to always just be preventing, right? But you're not going to live your life to the fullest, right? And that is not okay. So that's why we need to make change. That's why we're talking about it. That's why we have to address it. And I mean, it's only to hope that the authorities and all those that are in a higher power could do something about it when they hear, our thoughts. And, you know, we must also think about the individuals that have lost their loved ones due to crime and violence, right? You could only imagine how they're feeling, you know, just knowing that they lost somebody that is their pride and their joy, like especially parents having to bury their children. Like that has a mental impact on them. Like that could cause a person to become suicidal, right? They will ask themselves, "Oh, what's the point of living?" Right? You take away my son and my daughter just like that. So these are some of the effects, right, that can psychologically impact, right, our individuals who are victims or survivors, right? And last but not least, just to touch on it, I know Ms. Mo has also spoke about it, is that it impacts our country's economy and the tourism sector. Because I mean, not right now because COVID, but before, this has been something that was always ongoing. Because look, take for example, for Carnival, there was a girl named Asami. She played steel pan, I believe, and she came down to Trinidad, to embrace our culture, and the girl was raped, and she lost her life. I don't remember the logistics of her scenario, but my point is that just hearing that, and that news would have gone viral. Persons that are not from the Caribbean or from Trinidad, and they will have fear to come and you know visit Trinidad, because they just thinking, "Wait, they real high rate crime, me are going there," right? Because they are feeling like, well, if I go there and I go to that fete or whatever, you don't know what gonna happen to me. You might not see me tomorrow, right? So these are some of the psychological impacts, or I should say, major effects of crime and violence that can is a all wrong um, problem, as an issue that would continue to manifest if we don't, take a stance and talk about these are the issues, right? Like it's not a joke, and we need to step up. We need our persons to really, listen to what we have to say, because it is very sad to know that this is the rate in which we have reached, right? And I just want to share some solutions that we should consider with respect to crime and violence. So I strongly believe that parents, if you have children, you need to take full accountability and responsibility for your kids' development and upbringing. And when I say that, again, it starts at home. It means that don't leave them unattended, you know, at a tender age, and you have them doing whatever. You need to always know what your child is doing. Be involved, right? Now, don't be the parent that always, you know, telling your child what to do, right? Because you want them to learn and grow as well, but you can always be there to supervise, right? So that they understand when they do something wrong, you correct them. All right, because if we don't do that, they're going to grow up and think everything is what it is, and that is how we have a problem today when they grow into later adulthood. And then you want asking yourself, well, my child, I don't know anything about that. How come, I didn't know he was doing anything. Well, where were you? Right? I don't want to get all sentimental here, but the thing is, it starts at home, right? And you would expect, if you grow the child up properly from the tender age, they would, take those morals and values somewhere when they reach at adulthood, and they will know, okay, I have to have respect, I have to do things in an honest way, and have those values instilled in you so that you don't resort to the illegal activities, right? Um, and our authorities, like for instance the TTPS, I think that they should constantly be investigating the hotspot areas in Trinidad and Tobago to understand what is happening, right? We can't turn a blind eye and expect things to just fix itself, right? And if we constantly monitor what is going on, we would be able to facilitate the rehabilitation centers. So, if monthly or weekly or however they want to do it, there's regular police patrol, and you see there are just like idle individuals around the place, you you have to pull up on them and tell them, let us get you into this program. Let us, have a solid plan where you could try to change and reshape their behaviors and their minds, right? So that they will not resort to go into the, well, yeah, I'm gonna put on a little robbery day, like that mentality we Trinidadians have, and it's like that's nothing, right? But that is besides that, there are other problems too, like again coming back to abuse and how that affects your psychological health, especially to women if they're abusive partners that they're in relationships with and they don't know how to get out of it. When somebody reports something, if they got sexually assaulted or they were raped, our police need to listen, take a good note of that, and talk about it, talk to the person, talk to that partner, and pull up on them and say, listen, that is not right, right? And if they have a problem with that, then you have to get them into the program where they could be counseled, so we could understand why these people behaving like that. Everybody have a story, everybody comes from something, right? We are human. All right. And the thing about it is, if we don't understand these individuals, why they do what they do, then we cannot curb this problem. We will always have it. Right. So these are just a few, things that I think authorities should take into consideration to a step in solutions to crime and violence. And we need to constantly in the education system, and again back to parents, teach our children to have respect for everyone, no matter your age, your race, your gender. Have respect, right? Because if we don't do these things, everybody feel is okay to just cuss and use these, and that's against the law, right? And it is not, that is not right. That is not civil behavior. And we have to teach our children the right thing when they're little. So when they grow up, they would be able to handle themselves in a respectable manner, right? And I want to really strongly speak about the education system. We need to make sex education available to teenagers with the guidance of parents and teachers, right? Because like I say, we don't want, you teach them about it and then they get curious to want to know how to, engage in the activity. We don't want that. We don't want to promote making children, having children, as a layman's perspective to put it. But we want them to understand that, listen, this is what will happen if you do that, right? And we need to also teach our young boys, our young men, gentlemen, that, if you are having these urges, I'm not saying that nothing is wrong with you. That is being human, but you have to learn to have control and respect and learn boundaries, right? When somebody says no, right, and they don't give you consent, it means no, right? And they have to just learn to take that rejection, right, so that they don't um continue thinking, well, if I feel in this way, I'm gonna do that, because no, that is not right, right? So this is something that we need to implement in schools, especially for the teenagers. Your hormones going wild and all that. We understand that, right? And that will help to, minimize the unplanned pregnancies. And then the point, coming back to the root causes I was speaking about earlier with the whole poverty, and it would break that cycle, right? And it will also end the rape culture that we have, especially where our men need to learn to be more respectable and whatnot, right? And last but not least, I want to talk about enforcing the laws. Like, we need to enforce the laws no matter what, right? Because if you don't, this thing about, well, I'm a friend and saying, you're a good boy. Yeah, good boy, good girl. But I mean, if we always letting things slide, that is how we will always have this, you know, it will be a never ending cycle, right? And we have to cut out that corruption where and that favoritism. Well, if somebody knows somebody and this link, and it just causing more problems, right? And nobody will ever get justice when something is done wrong to them, which is unfair to the abiding citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, right? And I know this is going to sound a bit harsh and opposing to the humanitarian acts, but I think, this is me personally, that if these persons who are doing criminal activity and they're engaging in so and so, and they explain their background and whatever, and if they have no set of real reasoning behind the heinous acts of just killing people for sport, right? And they go through rehabilitation, we put them through the program, we try to understand their behavior, and you put them back into society and they do the same thing. I really think that there's no place for people like that, right? I think the authorities need to really think about that. But like I say, that is the very few, but those very few is what spoils our society. In other words, if they are not even going to try to work with the authorities that given them rehabilitation, then it really is not going to end the problem, right? Because given them, for instance, given somebody who have a bunch of charges against their name for rape and larceny and you name it, right? And you putting them back out there, and if they even got rehabilitation and it still didn't change their mentality and thinking to say, let me turn around my life, then what do you bring to the table to our country, right? But I mean, people would disagree with that point, but I think that there is no point in trying with humans that are stubborn, right? There's only so much, again, the authorities can do, and there's only so much advocacy and awareness that we can bring. But if it is up to this individual who is just not going to change their behavior, right? And they think that just sexually assaulting or raping somebody for fun is cool. Well, I beg to differ, right? So that is all that I have to say tonight with respect to the psychological impacts of crime and violence. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Emily, for that great presentation.